It was Christmas Eve, 1945. The town of Fayetteville, West Virginia, was blanketed in a serene layer of snow, creating a picturesque winter wonderland. The air in Fayetteville, West Virginia was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and the promise of a joyous holiday. The streets were adorned with twinkling lights and festive decorations, bringing a sense of warmth and cheer to the cold winter night. The Sodder family home, nestled in the hills, buzzed with activity. Inside, the atmosphere was filled with laughter and the sounds of children playing as the family eagerly prepared for the holiday celebrations. George and Jenny Sodder were preparing for Christmas with their 10 children. The parents worked tirelessly to ensure everything was perfect for the big day, from decorating the tree to wrapping presents. The younger ones, excited for Santa's arrival, bounced off the walls. Their eyes sparkled with anticipation as they hung their stockings and whispered their Christmas wishes. It seemed like a scene from a heartwarming holiday film. The family gathered around the fireplace, sharing stories and enjoying each other's company, creating memories that would last a lifetime. But this idyllic picture was about to be ripped apart. The joy and laughter would soon be replaced by fear and despair.
The fire spread so quickly. We tried to save them, but it was too late. The flames were relentless, consuming everything in their path.
Around midnight, a fire erupted, engulfing the Sodder home in flames. The once peaceful night was shattered by the crackling of fire and the cries for help. The fire spread rapidly, fueled by the wooden structure. The dry wood acted as kindling, allowing the flames to grow stronger and more ferocious with each passing second. George and Jenny scrambled to save their children. They fought through the smoke and heat, desperately trying to reach their loved ones. 5 of them managed to escape the inferno. They stumbled out into the cold night, their faces marked with soot and their eyes wide with terror. The other 5, however, remained trapped inside the burning house. Their cries for help grew fainter as the flames intensified. Panic and despair gripped the parents' hearts as they watched their home and their children being consumed by the relentless fire. The helplessness they felt was overwhelming.
We did everything we could, but the flames were just too strong. The fire seemed to have a life of its own, defying all efforts to control it.
The fire burned quickly, leaving behind a smoldering ruin. The once vibrant home was now a charred skeleton, a haunting reminder of the night's events. The heat was so intense that it melted the telephone lines, delaying the fire department's arrival. The delay proved to be catastrophic, as precious minutes were lost. As the flames died down and the smoke cleared, a chilling realization dawned upon the Sodders. 5 of their children were missing. The reality of their loss hit them like a tidal wave. The Christmas Eve fire had transformed from a joyous celebration into an unspeakable tragedy. The Sodder family's lives were forever changed, their hearts heavy with grief and unanswered questions. In the aftermath, the community rallied around the Sodder family, offering support and condolences. But the mystery of what happened that night would linger, casting a shadow over the town for years to come. Memorial services were held, and the town mourned the loss of the 5 children. Their memories were honored, but the questions remained. Investigations were launched to determine the cause of the fire, but answers were elusive. Theories and rumors swirled, but the truth remained out of reach. Despite the tragedy, the Sodder family held on to hope. They continued to search for answers, determined to uncover the truth about what happened to their children. The story of the Christmas Eve inferno became a part of Fayetteville's history, a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring strength of a family's love. As dawn broke, casting a somber light on the charred remains of the Sodder home, a search began for the missing children. The air was thick with the acrid smell of smoke, and the once vibrant home now stood as a haunting silhouette against the morning sky. George Sodder, his face etched with grief and disbelief, frantically dug through the ashes and debris. His hands, raw and blistered, moved with a desperate urgency, each scoop of ash a painful reminder of his loss. He called out their names, his voice breaking with each syllable, hoping against hope for a response.
I just kept hoping, praying that they had somehow survived. Every moment felt like an eternity, and every shadow seemed to hold a glimmer of hope. The silence was deafening, and the weight of uncertainty was almost unbearable.
Neighbors joined the search, their faces grim as they combed through the wreckage. The community, bound by shared sorrow, worked tirelessly, their collective efforts driven by a deep sense of solidarity and compassion. They sifted through the ruins, their hearts heavy with the weight of the tragedy. Days turned into weeks, and the search for the missing Sodder children intensified. The relentless pursuit for answers saw no end, as volunteers and officials alike refused to give up. The search extended beyond the immediate vicinity, reaching into neighboring towns and distant areas, fueled by the hope of finding any clue, any sign of the children. Search parties scoured the surrounding woods, calling out their names, but their efforts proved futile. The dense forest, with its thick underbrush and towering trees, seemed to swallow their voices, echoing back only silence. The searchers, though weary, pressed on, driven by the hope that the children might have found refuge somewhere in the wilderness. The children had vanished without a trace. The realization was a heavy blow, leaving the searchers disheartened and the family in deeper despair. The forest, once a place of adventure and play, now felt like an impenetrable barrier, hiding the truth they so desperately sought. The authorities conducted an investigation, but their findings offered little solace to the grieving family. The official stance was clear, but it did little to quell the doubts and questions that lingered in the minds of the Sodders and the community. The investigation, thorough as it was, seemed to leave more questions than answers. The official report concluded that the fire was accidental, caused by faulty wiring, and that the 5 missing children had perished in the blaze. The explanation, though plausible, felt incomplete to those who knew the family and the house. The Sodders had recently had the wiring checked and found it to be in good condition. Their remains, the report stated, had likely been completely incinerated in the intense heat. This conclusion, however, was met with skepticism. Experts pointed out that even in the most intense fires, some remains, particularly bones, are usually found. The complete absence of any remains was highly unusual and deeply troubling.
But how could that be? The fire, though devastating, had not burned long enough or hot enough to completely incinerate 5 bodies. The townspeople, familiar with the nature of such fires, found the official explanation hard to believe. There were no bones, no remains at all. The absence of any physical evidence of the children's fate left a void that no official report could fill. The community's collective memory of the fire and its aftermath only deepened the mystery.
But the Sodders refused to accept this explanation. Their conviction that their children had somehow survived the fire grew stronger with each passing day. They clung to the hope that their children were out there somewhere, waiting to be found. They were convinced that their children were alive and had somehow escaped the fire. This belief was not just a desperate hope, but was supported by several puzzling details that did not add up. Their suspicions were fueled by several unsettling details. Details that seemed to contradict the official narrative and suggested a more sinister possibility. The relatively short duration of the fire, which was not consistent with the complete destruction of the bodies, the lack of any identifiable remains, which defied the expectations of even the most intense fires, and the peculiar circumstances surrounding the fire itself. There were reports of strange noises on the roof before the fire started, and the ladder that was always kept by the house was found at the bottom of an embankment, far from its usual place. These anomalies only deepened the mystery and fueled the Sodders' determination to uncover the truth. The official investigation into the Sodder fire was plagued by inconsistencies and unanswered questions. The fire chief's initial assessment, that the fire was so hot it would have incinerated the children's bones, was later contradicted by experts.
Bone fragments are often found even after intense fires. The lack of any such remains in the Sodder case is quite unusual.
Adding to the mystery was the discovery of a curious object in the ashes, a block of green, rubber-like material. A witness later came forward, claiming to have seen a similar object being thrown onto the roof of the Sodder home shortly before the fire started.
This fueled speculation that the fire was deliberately set, possibly using incendiary devices.
The Sodders' eldest son, John, who had escaped the fire, also recalled hearing a strange thumping sound on the roof just before the blaze erupted. Despite these discrepancies, and the family's pleas for a thorough investigation, the authorities remained unconvinced. They dismissed the family's concerns as the product of grief and trauma, clinging to the official narrative of an accidental fire. The Sodders, however, refused to give up. They were determined to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. As months turned into years, the mystery of the missing Sodder children continued to grip the nation. The case, which had initially shocked the local community, soon became a national sensation. People from all walks of life were drawn into the enigma, each with their own theories and speculations. Rumors and speculation swirled around the case, fueled by a series of bizarre sightings and unexplained events. The media played a significant role in keeping the story alive, with newspapers frequently publishing updates and new theories. Radio shows and even early television broadcasts discussed the case, ensuring it remained in the public consciousness. Witnesses came forward claiming to have seen the missing children in various locations, often accompanied by unfamiliar adults. These sightings spanned across different states, and each new report brought a mix of hope and despair to the Sodder family. Some witnesses described the children as looking healthy and well cared for, while others painted a more troubling picture. These sightings, while offering a glimmer of hope to the Sodders, also deepened the mystery. The family was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, torn between the possibility that their children were alive and the fear that they might never see them again. Each new sighting brought a fresh wave of media attention, further complicating their search for answers.
I saw them at a roadside diner. I'm sure it was them. They were sitting quietly, almost as if they were waiting for someone. I remember thinking how out of place they looked, like they didn't belong there. They looked just like the photos. The resemblance was uncanny and it sent chills down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just witnessed something incredibly important.
One particularly compelling sighting occurred a few years after the fire, when a woman claimed to have served the missing children at a roadside diner. She described them in detail, noting their mannerisms and the way they interacted with each other. Her account was so vivid that it reignited the search efforts. She said she recognized them from photographs and was certain it was them. Her conviction was unwavering, and she even provided a detailed description of the adults who were with the children. This sighting added a new layer to the mystery, suggesting that the children might have been taken by someone they knew. Another witness reported seeing the children in a passing car, their faces peering out from the back window. The car was described as an older model, and the children appeared to be trying to get someone's attention. This sighting was particularly haunting, as it suggested that the children might have been trying to escape.
I saw them in a car, just a glimpse, but it was them. They looked scared, like they wanted to say something, but couldn't. It was a fleeting moment, but one that has stayed with me ever since.
Each sighting, though never definitively confirmed, breathed new life into the Sodders' hope that their children were still alive. The family clung to these accounts, no matter how tenuous, as they continued their relentless search. They reached out to private investigators, psychics, and anyone who might offer a clue. These sightings, coupled with the family's unwavering belief that their children had been kidnapped, led them down a rabbit hole of possibilities. They explored every lead, no matter how far-fetched, and refused to give up hope. The community rallied around them, offering support and assistance in any way they could. Was the fire a deliberate act to cover up a more sinister crime? This question haunted the Sodder family and everyone who followed the case. The idea that someone might have intentionally set the fire to abduct the children was both terrifying and plausible. Had someone abducted their children? The possibility seemed more likely with each new sighting. The family began to suspect that the children had been taken by someone they knew, someone who had a motive to harm them. The lack of concrete answers only fueled their determination to find out what truly transpired on that fateful Christmas Eve. The Sodders' quest for the truth became a lifelong mission, one that would take them to the ends of the earth in search of their beloved children.